Yeah, long story short, we took our savings. A lot of this stuff you can't do in state. You have to find food truck manufacturers, specific types of equipment. You just can't go. I live in Alabama. You just can't go to Birmingham or Mobile or Montgomery and say, hey, I want to buy a food truck. There's no lots for that. So anyhow, we had to build a food truck from scratch in the middle of winter. And I did that, and that was a chore, but we had to get back to work. And once we found all the parts and pieces that we wanted to create the food that we wanted, and coolers and cooktops and various things, and then you get into all the other specifics like safety and fire inspections and hoods and things of that nature. It gets a little complicated already as starting that up.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
For our guest today, 2020 was an inflection point for him as it was for so many Americans because we watched the world shut down and jobs disappeared overnight, but the bills didn't. Some people figured no one was coming to save them, so they did what folks in this country have done for generations. Rolled up their sleeves and built something of their own. Our guest is one of those people. He decided to open a food truck, but he ended up running into a mountain of red tape. It turns out, freedom has strings attached when it comes to business. Before he could serve one customer, he had to jump through hoops you wouldn't believe. He thought he was chasing the American dream. Instead, he found himself wrestling with red tape. I want you to hear his story. So let's welcome in John Leddy, who owns and operates the Street Cafe, which is his food truck that he operates in Alabama. John, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you, David.
That's great. Well, hey, it's so funny. So many of these stories that we talk about, whether it be red tape or the way society changed in some way, or how someone really got activated to try to take action to try to change, their community or their state or whatever it is they're doing. It's fascinating how the government shutdown of the pandemic really kind of brought that into focus and kicked that off for so many people. So I'm really interested to kind of talk about this. And I love food trucks, by the way.
I think everybody does. And that's what made them so popular. But I mean, just the uniqueness of them and the availability. I mean, they almost come right to your doorstep in some cases.
Yeah. And you get such variety, which is so fascinating. There's so many, I don't know what it is about a food truck. It seems like there's just a creativity that a lot of the people want to kind of employ with their food.
Well, a lot of them, people think, they want to look inside of the food truck. They're like, how can you cook all this food and do all this out of this little box, and they wonder about that, is what's going on inside. But, it's just good engineering, and we're able to provide a good product and in a quick amount of time.
Well, so you've had your whole career in the food industry before opening up a food truck even. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into it and what you've done.
Yeah, I never thought in my wildest that I was going to do a food truck. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, maybe my own restaurant, but never a food truck really. But, 30 years in the restaurant business, COVID hits. And then all of a sudden, at first it was like, okay, there's some jobs that are shutting down, but then you realized all of the restaurants are shutting down. And then, okay, well, if I'm out of work, how do I get another job? Everybody else is out of work. And then it came to realize after, couple months that, things weren't going to get any easier. There was a lot of other countries that had it a lot worse than us. So anyhow, we decided we saw another food truck and we saw the type of business and I'm like, wow, this guy's doing really good. And, I have to work 12 hours in a restaurant to make this sort of thing. And I'm like, I could do this. So, long story short, we took our savings. A lot of this stuff you can't do in state. You have to find food truck manufacturers, specific types of equipment. You just can't go, I live in Alabama. You just can't go to Birmingham or Mobile or Montgomery and say, hey, I want to buy a food truck. There's no lots for that. So anyhow, we had to build a food truck from scratch in the middle of winter. And I did that, and that was a chore, but we had to get back to work. And once we found all the parts and pieces that we wanted to create the food that we wanted, and coolers and cooktops and various things, and then you get into all the other specifics like safety and fire inspections and hoods and the things of that nature. It gets a little complicated already as starting that up.
Yeah, I imagine. So what kind of food were you guys making?
So we do. We're a lunch style truck. We do a lot of Phillies, hot dogs, burgers, pizzas, some creative items during special times of the year.
So, and then when you were in the restaurant industry, what did you specialize there? Like what kind of food were you making there? And also talk to me about what's the differences. I mean, there seems some obvious ones between a food truck and a restaurant, but maybe from a professional standpoint, what are some of the differences that you really experienced?
Well, in my experience, I've worked in a lot of, I've done some quick service, mainly fine dining. I do a lot of butchering. I like a lot of steakhouses that I've worked at. I love working with the products, expensive meats and fishes and so on and so forth. And
and then what did you feel about, I mean, what did you think about the differences between working in a restaurant and then working in a food truck? I mean, again, obviously the cramped quarters are probably quite a difference, and the efficiency for space and all that. But I mean, what was that, the contrast in the experience between a restaurant environment and a food truck environment?
Yeah, definitely a lot smaller, a lot crampter. You don't have these big walk-in coolers. Storage really becomes an issue. It really hinders what you can cook because you don't have a wide range of different coolers to pull product from. And so you have to be menu specific on certain things just so you have the room to cook those things. And it is a big change in some way, but as a chef, you work in a lot of different kitchens. Even some places, they're just small kitchens. So you kind of make do.
Yeah. All right. What about, let's go back to 2020. Pandemic hits. Were you working in a restaurant? Remind me, did you get laid off?
Yeah. It was, we got called furloughed.
Yeah.
So, furloughed, laid off, hey, we're not sure when we're going to bring y'all back. And so I took another job after the first job, and then there was complications on that job. So that's when really I realized that, I didn't have any other options. I got to come up with something.
So you decide, hey, I'm going to look in this food truck thing. And then you realize, wow, this is complicated. I love how you say there's no lot you can go buy a food truck off of.
Right.
You gotta basically imagine you just got to retrofit, whatever
Something.
works for you. And God, it kind of seems like you're like part engineer in a way.
It was. So everything that's in a food truck, is up to code like a regular house. We got 10,000 watt generators, which is just the same amount to power your house. So we're running high voltage, and we have to do circuitry and, plugs to operate certain equipment. And so we had to put all that in, and then you had to find a company that would build a trailer. We had to go to a nearby state, and you put in your specs. Well, I want my window here. I want my door here. I want the size of I have a trailer. I don't have a truck. I have a trailer that I tote behind. And that was a decision too that I made. And so we had that all specially designed, and during COVID, parts were hard to come by. So even building them out, and then because they became really popular just that year, everybody was like, oh, we got a lot of stuff going that we're not going to be able to fulfill your food. But anyhow, I built my own, and we got started, and that's when really the getting started after building it was the easy part. It seemed that getting started was the hard part, going through all the legislative rules, legal stuff, and understanding, how to operate. You think you just, go out and find a corner or something or a storefront and start your business. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So what are some of the hoops that you had to jump through initially? And I know you've had additional hoops and kind of multi-jurisdictional stuff. And, it just seems like, man, this guy has a skill, wants to bring to people. They want what he's given, what he's making, and we're just blocking it. So maybe to take us through your journey on jumping through hoops and dealing with the government.
Yeah. So getting started. So I live on a county line, and I didn't think that was an issue at first. I have a house on one side of the county, and then my business is on 4 miles away on another side of the county. I started everything up, get your health department stuff, and then business licenses, and you're like, okay, ready to rock and roll. We go to the nearby my city that I live in, and they're telling that my documentation is not what they're needing. And I'm like, what do you mean? They said, well, that's for a different county. And I said, it's through the State Department. I don't understand. They're saying, well, you have to go through this county department. I'm like, someone please explain this to me. It's a state document. But anyhow, we figured that out. And then, so the health department, but the fire department regulations, that didn't kick in till later when they finally said, hey, we got all these food trucks. We're going to have to start inspecting.
So when they start inspecting, how does that affect your business and the timeline of your business?
Yeah, so it works kind of like with the business license. So every city that you go in, that city wants that county's health department permit. So you got to make sure what county you're near, or what you're in. Make sure you already have that health department. I live within 20, 30 miles of 4 different counties. So in 30 minutes, I could hit a different county. So I definitely got to make sure where I'm at. Go to that local city, get that business license, of course, during, business hours, Monday through Friday. And then some cities will require that fire inspection. Other cities won't. So a lot of cities will abide by rules and others will not. They ignore them. So it's hard to, as a business owner, you rely on these people, the municipalities, to kind of guide you and steer you through this. And then if some of them don't do things correctly or to the standards, then you get misunderstandings. You go to the next city, and you're like, well, this city didn't do this. This city didn't do that. So, yeah, the fire inspections started happening where they're like, well, you're going to have to go to this local fire department and get inspected. And I'm like, okay, so I went there. Fortunately, my trailer was already up to spec, except one thing. One fire department missed it, and then another fire department didn't get it, and a size of a fire extinguisher. All the codes, they have numbers and things. You gotta know what you're supposed to have. But anyhow, you take that fire inspection and then you go get your business license.
So one of the things that you experienced was that when you went to different jurisdictions, there was a different enforcement of the code, where they looked for different things, some missed different things. Like there's just a lot of variance. Is that what I'm hearing?
A lot of variance. With the food trucks, we were just learning as food truckers, and the cities were kind of just learning because it's like a food truck boom that, we have now so many food trucks on the road. And I think these were city ordinances that the cities never looked at before. They didn't understand what to do and where we're allowed to park, and even their ordinances. One of the ordinances, we were going into a lot of neighborhoods, HOA communities. Well, the ordinance stated in most cities that you're only allowed to operate in a business district and not in residential. But it was the residents that were calling us there. It was the cities are saying, hey, you need to help our residents. The cities kind of influenced us to go where we were supposed to go. But come to find out later, it was sort of illegal.
Yeah.
So, and, a lot of city festivals, they weren't charging us business licenses because they needed us. They wanted us. And then we became so many, they're saying, oh, whoa, whoa, wait, you guys need to have this, this, and that. I'm like, well, I've been doing your festival for 3 years and you haven't required it. So they started changing a lot of things. I mean, it was actually for the better. I kind of wish they would have started the right way in the beginning. And that's what made it confusing, even for a lot of food truckers that were not in the restaurant industry prior to getting a food truck.
I think one of the things that we hear all the time, whether they're big businesses or, a food truck or just a startup, is when people are looking for certainty. When government is arbitrary or changing rules all the time, business people can't plan. They can't make, they need that certainty so they can make plans for the future. Because if you're running a business, you're forecasting your next moves, your investments, how you're going to grow, what you got to save, what you got to, what do you need to do to improve in order to comply with what the government's putting on you. And then when the government's switching that up, it makes it so hard for people at any level to do business, citizens too. But particularly for, then when you have limited resources, I imagine, you're a startup and it's a food truck and like you're putting everything into it. I mean, how much time and money complying with these rules does that cost you?
Oh, that gets into a whole nother. Yeah. So let me start with the health department. So each county has a health department office, and you have to go to their office. You have to apply the standardize application, pay the money, and then a health inspector will get back to you with a time and appointment on when they can inspect you. That could be a week, 2 weeks, and depending on the county, even longer. During COVID, I got refused by a county because they were too busy. They took those inspectors and they put them in with COVID testing. So they took them out of the field. So I had to go to a neighboring county when I first started because they refused to inspect me in my home county. So that was one of the issues starting off. Just COVID, the amount of people, they needed everybody to do COVID testing and not food truck inspection. So that was a real problem in the beginning. But then once I got started with another county, going to the counties, and then say if I have an event, or somebody calls me, say, hey, can you come to Saturday in 4 days to this event? Well, you can't do that if you didn't already preempt and get in your county health inspection that you've been inspected for in multiple counties. It's the same inspection. It's under the same state code. It's nothing new in that county. It's just an application and a money thing. So that became a hassle that you can't just take bookings. So when every year as a food truck, we almost preempt, well, what counties do I want to work in this year? If I don't get that health department preemptively, then when an event comes up, we may not be able to do it because they do not inspect within a day. You can't just drive up and get an inspection. So now I understand there's staffing issues and some problems, but if I'm already been inspected by your neighboring county by the same agency, I don't see what the problem would be.
Yeah, you'd hope there'd be some sort of reciprocity between neighboring counties. It's not even like you're going across the country or in a different climate. You're talking about the same, the same everything.
It's
really
very much the same. Hey, a few miles away, I got the same piece of paper. That you're going to give me. It's just you're going to put a different county name on it. But anyhow, yeah. And then the fire inspection happened where now just to go to that same event 4 days from now, that fire inspection only inspects on a certain day of the week for that specific fire station. These fire marshals can't just drop what they're doing and inspect you. Say the event's on a Sunday and I only have Thursday and Friday to work with. Well, I have to get that health and that fire together before I even go to the city hall to get the business license. So Thursday and Friday, if I can't get it together, then I'm not working anywhere Saturday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes, once again, another real problem. So, if I don't have, and it's the same national code with the fire inspection. So,
yeah. So John, are there, so it seems to me the biggest challenge again is like multi-jurisdictional, multi-department regulations that you're just, you want to comply with, but you're just trying to like navigate it all while you're trying to get a business going and have it be successful. And, then finally you get to like cooking good food at a good price for people.
Oh, no, we're not there yet. I know you want to jump to the good food part. But yeah, once you get these business licenses and even the health department and fire department, once you get into a specific municipality, there's rules with them that you have to follow on where you're allowed to park. You can't just park in public parking. There is a city that nearby that says that you have to get the permission of the mayor to park in public parking if you want to operate.
Wow.
So then we call upon some of these large box stores and say, hey, can we park out in your parking lot? When we have a neighboring city that uses the ordinances to a manner that kind of is illegal, they use it to where they say that the owner of the property must give you permission. Well, these box stores, they sign these 100-year leases, 50-year leases, and they are technically the owner. But then the city will say, we need the permission of the deed owner, and they circumvent the tenant laws. So then they don't allow us to park where some of the big box stores have allowed us.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like it's not trying to get to a place of yes. Like let's have these food trucks out there to be able to serve people the food they want, and they're not getting that place. So now this has been how long have you been kind of dealing with this reality of trying to get these different permits and licenses so that you can do business?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for about 5 years. Some of the food truckers, over the decades, you don't travel as far, but we do now. We all travel a lot further. And so once really COVID hit, the need for us food truckers was kind of a demand all over.
Yeah. So last session in the Alabama legislature, you were involved in trying to get a bill passed.
Yes,
to kind of address some of that.
275, yes.
Yeah, will you share with us what that bill would have done?
Well,
what happened?
We were trying to do is just to get a reciprocal license for health, fire, and business license. So kind of like what you do with your car title or your car tag each year, you go to the revenue department and you get a sticker on your tag, and we were wanting to do the same thing. Just once a year, we either go through the Department of Revenue, and submit our health and fire documents and say, hey, we would like one license just to operate for the year for the whole entire state, for all 67 counties of Alabama. And that's what that bill was going to do, was one permit just so we could operate. But we weren't going to limit any sort of inspections. We still want inspections. We just don't want to have to continuously pay for them or apply for them. If they want to come out to us, we're not against any kind of safety, safety for food, safety for the public, for fire safety. We want the inspections. The fire marshals, if we're in your city, we already got a permit. Please come out to my truck. Come check it out for 5 minutes and make sure I'm compliant. And we want food trucks to be compliant.
I think, of course, you want your business to be able to, one, not be dangerous, obviously, and but then be able to function in a good regulatory environment. And so what happened to this bill?
Well, we had more political problems with this bill. One, we submitted a little bit too late in the session. It actually went through the Senate pretty quick and easy. It was ready to go to the floor for a vote. But unfortunately, other politics took place in the government. We had some, you hear the word filibuster all the time. We had a lot of that happened because there were certain bills that weren't, people weren't happy about. And so we got pushed back to the side. And, one, I think our bill was not written to the way that there was a lot of confusion.
Sure. But you guys have another bill. You're planning on introducing a new bill this session, and you're more hopeful about that prospect?
Oh, yes. It's written a little bit differently. So to alleviate any confusion, the whole food truck business, a lot of people don't understand. They,
Yeah.
everybody, hey, you see a food truck at an event, you just don't understand, don't know what they have to do. And sometimes, like I told you before, that these cities don't make us jump through the hoops and the requirements. So a lot of food trucks have worked a long time without having to do some of these things. But now they're saying we got a lot of food trucks, we need to start doing everything. So now it is becoming more difficult.
Yeah, government sees something growing, they love to regulate it. So now, I'd hope. The Alabama has a relatively conservative, definitely Republican legislature, and by reputation, or at least what a lot of Republicans say is that we are for low regulation and allowing business to operate and do their thing, to fill a need and to create a business and make money. I really hope that the education that you're trying to engage in to help legislators understand what the reality is that you faced as a small business owner is can be really impactful, because we got to kind of put our money where our mouth is when you're talking about legislators. If you say you're for small government, you're for less regulation and for letting people unleash their entrepreneurial spirit, then don't put arbitrary rules in front of them that have different jurisdictional problems.
Right.
I think what you guys are asking for is just consistency and an easy, not even easy, like just a reliable way to go and, make sure your things are safe, you're compliant, and that you can actually operate without, being hassled or being, running afoul of the law. I think everybody thinks that makes tons of sense. But I imagine one of the things you're running up against too is, the restaurants, probably the brick and mortar restaurants, don't always love food trucks. And then you also have local governments and leaders in local governments who don't want to give up power. They have their own little fiefdom. They want to be in charge of what they want to do. And, because there's maybe people on their teams who do that. There's government employees who don't want to give up power and because they think they fear for their job. And, a lot of times those folks have the legislators' ears, and that's a bad thing, I think. That's not representing the people.
Yeah, we brought into all that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you probably didn't realize like the behemoths that you were running into, but it's encouraging, the movement that had in the Senate last year, and I think if you guys retooled it, we're excited, to help you guys and work on that this year, and I hope it's really successful.
Yeah, we really just want to get on board and make it to where, all the cities know that if a food truck comes into your community, that it has been, inspected by the health and fire and business license, that, hey, we are there to be a legal business. And as you mentioned, the other brick and mortar, we want to, it's a collaboration. If we bring in more food service establishments to a location, that kind of implores people to say, hey, let's go to this area. We got a lot of selection. And, so more the merrier is when you come into the food service. But yes, some brick and mortars, they find that threatening, and, because they pay, a property tax or something, that they get special rights amongst, other businesses. And, well, we got a brick and mortar. Well, some of these food trucks can cost more than a brick and mortar. So, we are just as, as much invested into our business as you are.
Sure.
And we're happy. I'd be happy to stay in one particular city, and progress there. But a lot of times we just don't have that business all the time. So we have to move around.
Well, John, I wish you guys the best. I love food trucks. I think a lot of people who listen to this, over the last number of years have probably really enjoyed a lot of food from the food trucks. I just love your entrepreneurial spirit of saying, hey, I'm getting blocked here on COVID, about a shutdown. I'm going to find another way to do this and start a business. So I hope that you're successful in kind of fighting this kind of overregulation, and that your business just takes off and it's a great experience for you. I appreciate you coming on with us.
Well, thank you very much, David, for getting us to shed some light on what the food trucks have to deal with.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, good luck.
All right. Hey, thank you, sir.
Thanks. Hey, folks, if you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.